When was the last time you did stand-up? Like a long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's been 20 years before. 9 months ago I started doing, took a night at a place called the Laugh Factory where they make the comedy. The Laugh Shop is where we sell it. Here.
Right.
And so I took a night, and I had unemployed people get it free, and it was scary, and I thought, can I do it again? And what does the audience know about me? Do they remember my first marriage? Do they remember, and it was a very good testing ground, and I really got into it. And it's been, like, to say 20 years since I've been in the clubs. I mean, I've always done corporate things and, emceed and hosted and stuff, but to really work and act is a completely different thing. And I never done a sober, for sure. So, it was really fun. And what was really fun was discovering all the young people. My assistant went on the internet and went to some underground clubs, and seeing all these different kinds of comedians and comedians that I hadn't seen before was really inspiring. In fact, I wrote a show and sold it to NBC about them, and so out of doing something that I did not want to do, I was uncomfortable doing, stand up, because you always think, well, you do stand up, then you do TV, then you do movies. And I've done 70 movies, and it's
70 movies.
Yeah, I know, 3 good ones, and
but what are the 3 good ones?
Well, I don't know, but maybe 5. But I think that it really is. There's something really special. I love the performing part. The other stuff around it, like this interview is nice. And once I get to the interviews, that's how I get to them. But I do more interviews than any comic
You're
ever.
on the talk show circuit monthly, I think.
Because I can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it must own the stand-up act pretty well, because, I mean, it's not.
Well, I've always done. I've always done sort of. When I do that stuff on the, I prepare. They're just stories,
right?
And so that's similar to my act. Obviously, I can't do jokes about stuff because people know too much about me. So I can't lie to them and say, yeah, I'm happily married, got 4 kids, or I can't say, I live in a shack. Although, I'm not as rich as I used to be. I'll tell you that. So. I can't, my old act was about live with 6 guys, and, everybody had their own couch and their own bong, and, can't really do that anymore. So, I found, and I know my ex-wife, when I first met her when I was 23, the comedian, Roseanne, but when I first met her, I was 23, and before she was famous, and her act was so killer. I mean, I saw her on stage, I couldn't be. You couldn't be friends too much with a woman that wasn't super funny. Some weird guy, comic thing. You date any waitress, any waitress, they could be the dumbest person in the world, but a waitress. But she just killed it. And then she thought I was funny, which really is like a sexy thing. If a woman thinks you're funny, especially if it's a talented woman that is talented, you're like, wow, that's amazing. So we became really good friends for 6 years. And then I moved to L.A. to write her show. She became famous a couple years later. I always knew she would. Like, her act was so good, and she was so talented. I knew that she would be a huge star. But, that were 6 great years, and I'm very grateful to have that time. And, it's so funny to come from working at Hormel and then do stand-up, and then, which I thought was just awesome life, living with 6 guys, having no money, using coffee filters for toilet paper, that life, I
remember those days.
Yeah, exactly. And then to come out to L.A. and then be a writer on a show that was like the #1 show, and you're working with John Goodman and Laurie Metcalf and Estelle Parsons and Sarah Gilbert, all these great people, and then all these great writers, and you're in charge of hiring them, and the writers, and you're learning to act by watching John Goodman and watching these great people, and the show is a success. So I don't know if I appreciated how amazing that was. And then my first scene in a movie was with Dustin Hoffman. I had 5 scenes in this movie called Hero, little thing. And then my first,
little thing.
Yeah, but I mean, it was like, and then my first real movie was True Lies. So, I was spoiled, and I didn't even realize how, because I always assume it's going to be over tomorrow, and that the joke's going to be on me, or they're going to, cut me. They're going to be on to me. They're going to realize I suck, and I'm sure they still will. But I'm playing this thing out as long as I can, because
you should.
I don't think they'll hire me back at Hormel. They just when I got fired, it was too ugly.
And you don't need to.
Well, no, but it's always in the back of your mind. You know, I think if you
it's
start,
in the back of everyone's mind.
well, I talked to Ozzy Osbourne about this a lot because he came from a poor family. That he has a picture of the house he grew up in on his wall, and he has nightmares still about being back at that factory.
Huh.
And
I think he's okay now, though.
Yeah, he is, but you know, his wife's a shopper. And anytime you have a wife,
she got her own gig.
yeah, but she's still a shopper. He still has a tour, and you know, when she always has a new house. And I love her, but she always has a new house, and he's always in fear, you know, in the back of his mind that he's gonna, you know, lose it all.
You mentioned a couple of things that I want to touch on briefly. One being the NBC sitcom.
Yeah.
So what's going on with that? Writers' room, kind of.
Yeah. What I did, what I did was I got a blind series commitment. To write and produce a show because they wanted to go back to, you know, some 4-camera type sitcoms.
Okay.
And, you know, which I like because, you know, they haven't done that in a long time. And
no, it's all handheld now, right?
And, yeah, and they were thinking, you know, when they hired me, they said, you know, I had a show called The Jackie Thomas Show that I did right after or during Roseanne, and that was my one really good sitcom. And that lasted a year. It would have lasted longer, but I didn't want to change and get rid of some of the people. And I probably, you know, there's a lot of things. In fact, it was on ABC, and Fox said they'll take it as is. And at that time, I said, Fox isn't a real network, and they're saying, you know. So, well, but the tone of that, the tone of Roseanne, you know, I want to do something real, and it was funny because the guy that they're like, this is a show for you to write and produce. I mean, you could be in it, but it's not, you know, the Tom Arnold show. You know, no offense, but we'd rather you just focused on the writing. And I go, no, I get that. I consider that a compliment. So, you know, I did this through the stand-up comedy. I started seeing these young people, and I'd hear about their lives. And they moved to L.A. thinking, oh, my God, it's going to be great. It's going to be like American Idol. And they leave some crappy place, and they realize L.A. is just as crappy, except they made such a big stink about leaving that they have to stay there. And they have jobs as waitresses, waiters, and at night, if they're lucky, they get $15 to do a spot on my show or some show, and they really appreciate it, and they hang out together, and they have this like a support group, it's like a great 12-step meeting, you know. And so I said, you know, I don't want to write a show about Hollywood, but I want to write the anti-entourage, what it's really like about 6 people that end up here, and they end up in one place together for various reasons, and for, you know, and what the life is really like, and how they, you know, how they survive together from different worlds, you know, and that's really what the show's about. And then I'm the jerk. I'll be there once in a while.
Cool.
Be a bad guy that pulls them all together. But it's not Friends, but it's
sounds like
it's
a grittier
similar.
30 Rock kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's much grittier. It's 30 Rock meets sort of Roseanne type. Yeah, whatever.
Well, I'm hearing rumors of True Lies 2 that you're throwing out there and everything.
Yeah, well, here's
we got
the
to
thing. I said to the New York Times, Arnold and I, Jim Cameron, Jamie Lee, we're doing an action comedy, but it's not going to be called True Lies 2. Jim always says, you know, Tom. You know, but it's just going to be just like True Lies 2. So I keep saying, well, then you call it whatever you want. Yeah, and it'll be nice. It'll be fun to work with those guys again. And we've done one little thing since True Lies together, a little movie I wrote called The Kid and I, about my next door neighbor who has cerebral palsy. It was a true story, who always wanted to be in a movie like True Lies. And so you could rent that in the meantime and see a little surprise of Jamie Lee and Arnold. But you know, yeah, we're going to do something together. Because, you know, we have good chemistry, Arnold and I. So it's real. You know, we ride bikes every weekend. We still do that, and I think people would probably watch that. Yeah. You know, and I think it'd be good for all of us, especially me.
To be in a big blockbuster summer movie.
Yeah, that would be great.
That might be in 3D. Who knows?
That would be, well, yeah. I saw Avatar.
Oh, yeah?
And it is the most unbelievable film I've ever seen in my life. I've never seen anything like it.
That's what everyone says.
I was not a fan of, I wasn't a crazy 3D, you know, guy. But this film and this story is amazing. I mean, I felt chills and my heart was racing. And I didn't want to like it because I wasn't in it, but I loved it. And it's going to be like Titanic successful because,
amazing.
You know, I know they released a trailer, but that trailer shows nothing. It is unfreaking believable. I am just very proud of Jim Cameron, and you know, that's why it takes him 10 years to make a movie.